All right, so now we're going to get into a somewhat of a hot topic going on right now with the Philadelphia Eagles. Who should their quarterback be? Should it be Carson Wentz or should it be Nick Foles? I mean, you look at Nick Foles. I'll start this one off if you don't mind. Nick Foles, these last few games, he has played out of his mind. I mean, he came back, led his team to beat the Texans today. And last week he went to the LA Coliseum and beat the Red Hot Rams. And you saw what he did last year in late season in the playoffs. They beat the Vikings. They beat the pretty handily too. And then they beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl. And then you have Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz is a great quarterback. And to me, honestly, I would take Nick Foles over Carson Wentz from what I'm seeing right now. I mean, the Eagles were, hovering around 500. With Carson Wentz there, maybe a little under, but then Nick Foles comes in, and just like that, they've transformed into a powerful team again. And like we mentioned earlier, with Nick Foles at the helm, if they can sneak into the playoffs here, with Nick Foles at the helm, look for the Eagles to be in the Super Bowl here.
There's 4 years younger than him. And Carson Wentz, before he got hurt, don't forget, he was balling with that roster.
Mm-hmm.
Carson Wentz has got to be their future. He's got to be the dude that they're going to continue to build around. I don't think coming back, but then you had to come back, and then right behind you is the dude that just balled in the playoffs last year and in the Super Bowl. And, so I think he had that shadow over him. Really what I think is going to happen is that I don't think the Eagles win the Super Bowl this year. I think they're going to come up short. And then what will happen is that the Eagles should move Nick Foles. Sell him high because he's going to play so good. And then and we've seen it before. Quarterbacks just don't play well when there's somebody right behind them that is, if they feel is good or better, even if there's that controversy in the locker room. So this year, though, Nick Foles is the man. But in the future, you got to roll with Carson Wentz. He's younger. He's proven himself. He can ball too. So, and I think that Carson Wentz has more upside longer in his career than Nick Foles does.
It's honestly close. I mean, it could go either way.
Yeah, I mean,
what I'm seeing.
This is a really tough. Because just think how lucky the Eagles were to Carson Wentz get injured like that right at the end of the season. Nick Foles take his spot and lead him to a Super Bowl. I mean, really, you look back at sadly, hurts Ohio State with how their third string quarterback won it for them, a couple years ago. Kind of like that. And I think it's crazy. So they're both really talented, as we know. So I think it's really a toss-up. Like, for them to meet, Nick Foles coming to meet two playoff teams, the Texans and the Rams, at LA, that was impressive. But I think, like Zai said, I think you got to stick with Carson Wentz as your long-term plan. He's their franchise quarterback. He's younger, and like we all know, they had a really good record last year until he got hurt. So you got to stick with him. Yes, Nick Foles is a great backup guy, but I think someone will try to get him this offseason because he's shown he could be a starting quarterback. Maybe even Oakland would like Derek Carr's not bad, but or maybe even the Lions. The Lions are struggling, so. Yeah, I would definitely take Carson Wentz over Foles in a tight one.
Question is, what team should take Nick Foles? I don't think the Raiders should go after him. I mean, Derek Carr is the man. There's no one behind him. Mm-hmm. I mean, Nathan Peterman, come on. He's not going to lead the Raiders to anywhere. Denver's got Case Keenum.
One of the teams that got a rookie quarterback now.
The Browns aren't going to take him because Baker Mayfield is the face of that team now. And you look at what they've done with Baker Mayfield, could possibly Cincinnati take him? I mean,
the Jaguars.
That would be a good spot.
That would make sense. Blake Bortles is about done down there.
I mean, let's talk
And
about the biggest fluke of all time, I believe. They were about to meet the Patriots in the AFC Championship game or the Super
should have
Bowl,
beat them.
and now they're terrible. I can't believe that.
Yeah, very disappointing. They're probably the most disappointing team in the NFL this year.
I can agree.
But and it's crazy because they really had the Patriots beat. They fumbled the ball. That game was over if he doesn't fumble the ball. And but this year I think what happened is that kind of what I just said. They really believed that they beat the Patriots. They thought they deserved to win that game.
Yeah,
And if they would have won that game, they would have won the Super Bowl. There's no doubt in my mind. And I think they went into the offseason like, man, we're the best team. We're going to roll people. And it just didn't happen. And, you start dealing with some injuries. You don't play as well. Leonard Fournette's been hurt all year, which kind of hurt them. But they need a quarterback. It's going to be really disappointing if that team falls apart and the defense they had built, and then you don't really get nothing out of it. So, but at the end of the day, the only thing about Nick Foles that bothers me is that Nick Foles has been a great quarterback when he gets to come in and play 5-6 games. But when he was a starting quarterback there for a couple of years, I just don't remember him playing like this. And so I felt like he got his chance early, and then he proved kind of like, man, this dude's a really good quarterback, a backup quarterback. We know if he goes in, we can still win games. But as a starting quarterback, I'm just not sure as a GM or a coach that I could put my chips in and roll with Nick Foles because I just don't think he's played at that elite level for the whole season like we're seeing him play these couple of games. But you know what? If he goes and wins another Super Bowl, shit, I'd pay the money for him.
Yeah. I mean, what about the Arizona Cardinals? They got a Josh Rosen, rookie quarterback. They've really been struggling, a really off year. A few years ago, they were like a team looking at the Super Bowl. They got to the NFC Championship game. But, I mean, what if, maybe start them and...
If they were to move him, he's going to have some options, that's for sure. So it'll be interesting where he goes and how he plays. But, for him right now, it's important, because if he goes out and lays an egg next week, it'll be the same story. He's just a backup quarterback.
I agree. I mean, Washington's not the easiest place to play, believe it or not. I mean, teams have had problems going in there. And, Washington, they're out of the playoffs, but they want their Eagles rivalry. Of course, every team in that division's a rival with each other, but, they want to knock their rival out of the playoffs and, kind of maybe show everyone that Nick Foles isn't really, the quarterback that he is, and kind of building off what Dr. Pepper said, with the Cardinals. I mean, Josh Rosen's going to be the face of that team going forward. I mean, the Cardinals are just terrible. There's no way around that, and I think Jacksonville would be probably the team that should go after Nick Foles because, they just don't have a quarterback and they just have issues right now. So who knows what will happen going forward with the Jaguars and who knows what will happen going forward with Nick Foles. Maybe he'll end up as a starter next year somewhere.
They got to win next week, though, because when you think about it, Redskins are on their, third or fourth quarterback, Josh Jackson, so
yeah.
That's... And, to make the playoffs, got to win, so.
I mean, I think they'll win. I agree with Jake. That's kind of a trap game because I think the Redskins, there's a little bit of question whether Gruden should keep coaching. And so I think the Redskins are really going to they want to win that game to kind of prove to people like, hey, we're still playing hard for our coach. And, and when you're a rival, what better feeling than to make sure a team in your division doesn't make the playoffs? So, the Redskins, it don't matter who's playing for them. They're going to play. They're going to play hard, and it's going to be a tough battle.
I agree. So that'll wrap it up for our Nick Foles, and next we'll get into some college hoops.